Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Young here, and today I'm back on our Fortnite video, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the best console settings to use here in Fortnite, and I'm going to be covering all the settings you guys need to know, and also some of my recommendations when it comes to choosing the best settings for you. And before we get into the video, I have a weekly V-Buck giveaway. I'm going to be giving away V-Bucks every single Friday, and if you guys want a chance to win some free V-Bucks, all you guys need to do is to drop a like on this video, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, and as well subscribe to my second channel. I post a ton of really good content on there, so make sure you guys do subscribe, turn on my post notifications, and as well leave a comment down below of your Xbox gamer tag, your PSN gamer tag, or Epic account. And if you guys would like to support me as a creator in the item shop, all you have to do is go over to the item shop, go into the bottom right hand corner, support a creator, and type in my code. My code is Young Humor. Type it in and you guys will have me supported as a creator. And alright guys, let's get right to the video. Alright, so I really haven't covered my settings here for Season 9 yet, so this is going to be my first video when it comes to the settings that I use currently here in Season 9. I'm also going to be talking about my recommendations when it comes to choosing the best settings for you, and as well give you guys my personal settings, and just everything that I currently use and exactly why I use them. So first, I'm going to be going into my current settings, and so here we have, of course, my mouse X and Y sensitivity. I really don't play on keyboard, so that doesn't really matter. But going into my controller sensitivity, my X sensitivity that I'm currently using is going to be a 0.65, and I have a 0.625. I don't really think that matters. I basically run a 0.65, and so that's going to be my current X sensitivity, and my current Y sensitivity is going to be exactly the same. And I've seen a decent amount of people on controller have a different X and Y sensitivity, and when they have a different sensitivity, they're going to have a little bit higher of an X sensitivity, and that's going to be the sensitivity where you're looking left to right. And a reason why you might have that a little bit higher, because it can help if you're going for edit plays to look a little bit more faster left and right, and also if you're trying to aim at other players and look around a little bit faster, it's very good to have a little bit higher X sensitivity, because the more you raise your Y sensitivity, the more your aim can get really thrown off. And if you do go with a higher X sensitivity, I wouldn't recommend going over, I would say, 1 point above your Y sensitivity. I feel like it's a little bit too high, but of course you want to find the best settings that work for you, but that would just be my recommendation. So for me, I do have the exact same X and Y sensitivity. I find it a lot better, feels really consistent, and that's the way I like it. And for me personally, having a consistent X and Y sensitivity really helps me out. It's really easy for my muscle memory just to remember every single thing when it comes to the sensitivity. And I do personally run a little bit lower sensitivity than I feel like a lot of players do, because I know a lot of players usually typically run in like the 7 to 8 range, but I currently run at a 6.5. I've seen people even go to like a 5 sensitivity, but I wouldn't recommend going any lower than that. I feel like that's going to be a little bit too much. So moving on to the controller targeting sensitivity, and I have mine as a 0.325. I think this is what works best for me. I've also seen some people all the way up to a 4 or even a 5, and I've also seen down lower than about 0.2. So I would say in between the ranges of 0.2 and 0.5, I would say is a really good option when it comes to controller targeting sensitivity. And I would say more towards the lower side is going to be the best, especially for players who don't have the best of aim. I think having a lower targeting sensitivity will definitely help, and that's what I would highly recommend doing. And so moving on to controller building sensitivity, I currently have it at a 1.8, and for those of you guys who watched my videos probably a few months ago, I used to have my controller building sensitivity at a 2, and the reason being there wasn't a controller edit sensitivity, so I played on a 2. But since they added that in, I ended up dropping it to a 1.8 because I feel like 2 was just slightly too high. I feel like my 90s were a little bit off on that sensitivity, so I moved it down to a 1.8. I think this is exactly what worked best for me. I also think a 1.6 would be very good as well. So anything from like a 1.6 to a 1.8, I think is going to be probably one of the best options you guys can have when it comes to your editing sensitivity. But of course, some of you guys might like a little bit lower. Sometimes you guys might like a little bit higher. But that's just my opinion. I think a 1.6 to a 1.8 is going to be one of the best options you guys can have. And so moving on to the last sensitivity or last setting on this list is going to be controller editing sensitivity, and this I have at max. I think everybody should be playing on a max editing sensitivity, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys do as well, playing on max, because there's no reason not to play on anything lower, because it really doesn't affect you at all. It doesn't affect your aim, it doesn't affect your building, it's strictly editing. So having a max editing sensitivity is going to be ideal, and just being able to edit as fast as possible in this game is going to set you up for a huge advantage in a lot of situations. You always always want to play on the fastest editing sensitivity that you can. So playing on a 2 is a must in my opinion. I say that's one of the settings I think everybody should be playing on no matter what sensitivity you have, building sensitivity or anything like that. I would always recommend playing on a high editing sensitivity, a max. And so the next setting that I'm going to quickly talk on is going to be my brightness. I've had a few guys ask me for my brightness, which I'm kind of confused why, I don't really know. But if you guys wanted to know, my brightness is at 0.84. It really doesn't matter, just all depends on your game, your TV and everything like that, what brightness you should play on. It really doesn't affect your game too much. Just put on whatever works best. And so moving on to my colorblind settings, and so currently I just have a off colorblind. I don't have anything going, and the reason being the game just looks the best in off. There's also a colorblind that you guys can use if you really wanted to. It does help out with viewing in the storm. So unless you're playing an arena or something super competitive, I really just have it off. I think the game looks best, so that's what I would recommend having it on. There's nothing really fancy about having any other colorblinds, so just have it off, and that's what I would recommend playing on. And so the next thing that I want to be talking about is kind of my controller settings. And so this is exactly the setup that I'm currently running. And the reason why I'm running the way I have it is because I do play on a Elite controller, for those of you guys who don't already know. So I use my paddles to edit and confirm, jump, and build. And if you guys want to know specifics on that, my bottom left paddle is going to be my jump button. I have my bottom right paddle as my build button. I have my top right paddle as edit, and then I have my top left paddle as confirm. So those are my paddle steps for those guys who have an Elite controller and want to know, or maybe use a scuff and want to use 4 paddles as well. So those are the paddles that I'm currently using. I have my edit button as bind to the right on the D-pad. Down on the D-pad, I don't have anything binded for that. Left on the D-pad, unbinded, and everything else I think is pretty normal, pretty standard. And that's pretty much everything when it comes to the combat control settings. So moving into my build controls. So for my build controls, I really don't have anything too different. I have my change materials and traps. I have that to left on the D-pad. So as you guys know, that is my top left paddle. That's what I use to change in between my traps and also in between my materials. So that's the paddle that I'm using. Of course, right paddle I'm using to edit. I have that bind as right on the D-pad. I think everything else looks pretty much the same, except for the bottom left. I have my left stick down as the trap picker, place and interact. So for you guys who don't already know, I do use auto run. I think it's very, very good. I'd highly recommend having it on. It really helps with my editing and just everything in general. So I have it auto sprint on. And I use my left stick down to pull up pretty much to place my traps. And I really like that button because it's super easy to, really accessible to use. I don't have to take my finger off the joystick at all. I can instantly place my traps. Very quick, very fast. I do like using it. And for those guys who do have an edit button, I know a lot of people have their left stick down as edit when they play on claw, so I would recommend that too. I've seen a lot of people use the left stick down, so basically the same bind that I'm using to place my traps, they use that to edit when they play claw. So if you are playing on claw, I would highly recommend that bind, at least give it a shot. So moving on to my edit controls. So inventory up on the D-pad, confirm left on the D-pad, right on the D-pad is unbound, bottom on the D-pad is unbound. And pretty much everything's the same. I have left stick unbound because I do have auto sprint. Everything else is pretty much exactly the same. I don't have anything really changed. And so that's going to be it for the edit controls. So moving into one of the last settings in this video, I'm going to be talking about my dead zone and what I play on. On my left stick, I play on a 0.2 dead zone. I think that's about average, or I think, or the default setting I think is a 0.27, so right around there. So I do play on a 0.2 on the left stick, and on my right analog stick, I play on a 0.116. The reason why I play on a little bit lower dead zone on the right, because it's very useful to have a little bit lower, for the reason being it's a little bit more sensitive, and you don't have it too low, because if you have your edit or you have your dead zone too low, basically what's going to happen is you're going to have some stick drift. So when you're not moving your stick, it's going to be moving your analog stick or moving your sight without you even touching anything. And this usually happens a lot more in older controllers, or controllers that have a little bit wear on it. And just the reason being, it gets worn out a little bit, so it gets a little bit more sensitive. And if you have that combined with a low dead zone, it's going to make you have a lot of stick drift, and it's going to be very hard to control. So the best number I found for me was a 0.14. I could even push a 0.12 if I wanted to, but I like to say 0.14. It's just a really good balance in between. I know a lot of people have to play on like a 0.18, a 0.2. Overall, it's not that huge of a difference, but I do think it helps a ton. The lower you can play, the better, but without having any stick drift. And the left stick, it really doesn't matter. Have mine on a 0.2. It's not that big of a deal. You can even play on a 0.25 or even a 0.27. Some people I even see play on a 0.3. So it really just depends on your controller and how sensitive it is, if it has a lot of wear and tear, different things like that. So that's something you definitely want to look into, and it might actually help you improve your game if you do find a dead zone that actually works better for you. And so that's currently going to be all of my settings I have here for Season 9. A lot of my settings are going to be very similar to my previous videos because I haven't changed too much. I maybe changed like 1 or 2 things. And really the only setting that I would recommend everybody using is going to be a max editing sensitivity. I think everybody should be using that. So make sure you guys have that on if you guys don't already. Everything else is really subjective to what you find the best. So it's really up to you. I just gave my recommendations and the settings that I'm using in case you guys wanted to know. And with that being said, that's wrap it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys liked it. And if you guys could, make sure you guys drop a like on this video. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on my notifications so you're notified for every single new video. And alright guys, I'll see you next video.